Story recap here. Today I'm going to explain an action, fantasy, and comedy film called The Dude in Me. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Fan-soo prepares for work and ignores his pissed wife Soo-yeon. Men bow to him as he leaves the luxury apartment. At the Han-ho company building where Fan-soo is the CEO, Cho reports that they've gotten rid of most of the tenants at the Jungwoon District Mall, except for a carpenter shop. Unsatisfied, Fan-soo calls Man-chul and orders him to settle the matter to get the district for themselves. At the carpentry shop, Man-chul and his men arrive to wreak havoc. Man-chul threatens their employer, Jong-gi, forcing him to release his property to their company. That evening, Fan-soo has dinner when Yang joins him, telling him to surrender the Cheongdo Precision. Fan-soo passively mentions that he only worked for it because Osung Logistics didn't work out for him. Offended, Yang berates him for still treating him like a lackey. He threatens Fan-soo, so the man points his steak knife at him. Seeing him undeterred, Yang leaves. The following day, Fan-soo meets with Chairman Han, assuring him that they have things under control despite another gang being interested in the Cheongdo Precision. That afternoon, Man-chul congratulates him on finally getting the building, but Fan-soo leaves, claiming to go and receive grace. Fan-soo goes to the Hope Diner and asks for the previous owner, but the new owner claims she's dead. Because of this, Fan-soo barely eats his meal when he decides to pay. Another customer, a student named Dong-yoon, suddenly receives a threatening call, so he rushes. However, he lost his wallet, so the owner offers Fan-soo to pay for his meal. The student thanks Fan-soo and leaves. Seeing him irritated, the owner assures Fan-soo that she'll make it up with a little gift. On a building nearby, a girl in school uniform runs up to the rooftop with a missing shoe. While waiting for traffic to clear up, Fan-soo exits his vehicle for a smoke. At the same time, Dong-yoon desperately reaches for a shoe on an antenna on the rooftop above him. Losing his balance, Dong-yoon falls off and onto Fan-soo. The next day, Fan-soo wakes up in the hospital where a nurse calls him a kid, but she leaves to call the doctor before he can ask why. He limps into the hallway, where another man calls him a kid. Fan-soo then enters the room next to his and finds his own unconscious body on another hospital bed. Before he can process what's happening, the doctor and nurse approach him, telling him that his father is on his way. Suddenly, Jong-gi comes running to him, calling him his son. Pushing him off, Fan-soo finally sees his reflection in a mirror and discovers that he is in Dong-yoon's body. Later, the doctor diagnoses Dong-yoon with retrograde amnesia, which might have caused him to mistake his identity. Jong-gi begs Dong-yoon to remember him, but Fan-soo, in Dong-yoon's body, insists that he's not his father. Afterward, Fan-soo becomes pissed at his physique and awful eyesight. Finally, he remembers Dong-yoon at the diner. Thinking that the owner did this to him, Fan-soo rushes to the diner, only to find it being torn down. A woman argues that the diner went out of business long ago, but Fan-soo insists that he ate there yesterday. Fan-soo then goes to his apartment and finds Soo-yeon crying, only to overhear that she's sad because of a broken necklace. Pissed, Fan-soo curses under his breath, which Soo-yeon hears. His wife backs away in fear and runs to push the emergency button. She then grabs a decorative sword to defend herself, while Fan-soo insists that he's her husband. Finally, the security arrives and arrests him. At the station, the police question him, but Jong-gi explains that his son just made a mistake due to the accident. Given this and the fact that he's a minor, the policeman releases him. Later, Fan-soo goes to the hospital and desperately tries to return to his body. After many failed attempts, Man-chul catches him. He recognizes him as the kid who fell on his boss, so he blames him for his condition. Fan-soo tries explaining himself, but Man-chul berates him until the nurse walks in. With no choice, Fan-soo lets Jong-gi take him home. He wonders if the father has a job, and Jong-gi shyly claims he now works part-time at a grocery store. Taking pity on him, Fan-soo tells him to take care of himself. Later, Jong-gi eagerly cooks an enormous amount of food just for him. Fan-soo insists that he doesn't eat junk food, but Jong-gi urges him to try, so he takes a bite and blacks out. When he wakes up, he finds that he has finished everything alone. The next day, they meet the vice principal to discuss the incident. Jong-gi asserts that Dong-yoon wouldn't harm himself and thinks that other students did this to him, but the vice principal insists that no bullying was involved. Understanding that it's a cover-up, Fan-soo offers to look into the incident himself and returns to class that day. Fan-soo joins Dong-yoon's class but sees that his classmates avoid his eyes. He sits beside Jae-ik, who complains about how it was difficult while Dong-yoon was away. At lunchtime, Fan-soo sits at a table, and the students around him suddenly leave. A group starts to become rowdy as they bully Yeon-jung, so Fan-soo yells at them to be quiet. Tae-wook confronts him and raises his hand to hit Fan-soo, but a teacher scolds him. With no choice, Tae-wook just tells Fan-soo to meet him after school. Later, Fan-soo meets up with Tae-wook. Tae-wook tells him that nothing has changed despite his accident, so he orders him to bring him snacks daily. When Fan-soo finds this ridiculous, Tae-wook tries to punch him, but Fan-soo hits him first. Tae-wook tries to retaliate, but Fan-soo is quicker and hits him again. Fan-soo realizes that Dong-yoon was an easy target, so he was bullied. Tae-wook tries to beat him again, but Fan-soo knocks him down along with his friends. This confuses the bullies, while Jae-ik, who saw the whole scene, is stunned. In the bathroom, Tae-wook and his friends confront Jae-ik, asking him if he saw what happened. They threaten to film him to make sure he doesn't talk, but Fan-soo comes out of the bathroom stall, making them back away. Finding Tae-wook's phone, he picks it up and browses through the pictures. Panicked, Tae-wook asks for it back, but Fan-soo slaps him then leaves with the phone. That night, Fan-soo checks the phone and sees the video of the accident. As the bullies smoked and drank on the rooftop, they ordered Dong-yoon to get Yeon-jung's shoe on the antenna. Yeon-jung tried to stop him, but the bullies blocked her, and Dong-yoon fell off the building. The following day, the bullies' leader, Chol-ho, beats his crew because of the stolen phone. Knowing that the video could get them into trouble, Fan-soo arrives and declares that he made a copy of the video for insurance. After tossing Tae-wook's phone back, Fan-soo tells Chol-ho to stay out of his sight. He then walks away, leaving the bullies confused. That evening, Soo-yeon exits an elevator with Cho, whom she has a secret relationship with. When Yang and his men corner them, he threatens to send photos to prove their relationship to Han, who's Soo-yeon's father. Defeated, Soo-yeon asks what he wants. Meanwhile, Fan-soo confronts Man-chul in the hospital room. Still thinking he's Dong-yoon, Man-chul threatens him, but Fan-soo kicks him. He then lists down facts about Man-chul's life to prove that he's Fan-soo. Later, Man-chul watches him eat. Still stunned that his boss is in a kid's body, he reveals that Yang plans to take over their company and kill him. Thus, he's been guarding his body. The following day, girls flock around a student named Min-woo, blocking Yeon-jung's path. Min-woo notices her, so he asks the girls to give way, though they make snarky remarks about Yeon-jung as she passes through. As Fan-soo leaves, he calls Man-chul to make arrangements for him when Yeon-jung bumps into him, dropping her keychain. Fan-soo chases her to return the keychain, but Yeon-jung confronts him about the accident, insisting that she told him not to get involved. Suddenly, Yeon-jung's mother greets her, and Fan-soo recognizes her as Mi-soon, his ex-girlfriend whom he often ate with at the Hope Diner years ago. That evening, Man-chul collects hair from Fan-soo's body, while Fan-soo grabs Yeon-jung to collect hair strands the next day. This allows him to take a paternity test, proving that Yeon-jung is his daughter. Man-chul tries to congratulate him, but Fan-soo glares at him. The next day, Yoon-ji and Jae-hee accuse Yeon-jung of stealing. Yeon-jung denies this, but they just insult her, so Fan-soo defends her. Still, Fan-soo sees Yeon-jung in tears because of the encounter. Later, Fan-soo orders Man-chul to harm the bullies, but he refuses since they're minors. Fan-soo then goes to Mi-soon and tells her that Yeon-jung is being bullied. Mi-soon thinks that it's her fault for raising her as a single mother and badmouths Fan-soo, saying that he should rot in hell. Embarrassed, Fan-soo tells Mi-soon that he'll just deal with it. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon tells Han that Fan-soo embezzled money from their company. Later, Fan-soo asks Man-chul how he can be close to his daughter. Man-chul advises him to have physical affection for her and to fix his appearance. Soon, Yeon-jung arrives at a gym where she meets Fan-soo. She's about to leave when Man-chul introduces himself as her trainer. Afraid, Yeon-jung tries to get out of training, but Man-chul refuses. Over the following weeks, the two train together under Man-chul's supervision. Despite her hesitations, Yeon-jung becomes competitive while Fan-soo works hard to get into better shape. Eventually, Fan-soo has Dong-yoon's body in shape and wears contacts, making him more attractive that girls become interested in him. One day, Fan-soo goes with Yeon-jung to eat at the restaurant. While she goes into her room, Fan-soo looks around their home and sees her childhood photos, realizing the times he could have spent raising his daughter. He sees a book about raising a fatherless child and finds a handwritten note by Yeon-jung, wondering if they would have been happy if her father was around. That evening, Jong-gi walks home when loan sharks confront him. Fan-soo sees this and confidently challenges the men, despite Jong-gi telling him to run. When Fan Su tries to fight them, Jong-yi desperately shields him, letting them kick him instead. The thugs just warn him to pay up before leaving. Later, Man-chul barges into the thugs' office and expertly defeats them. The thugs end up kneeling before him, so Man-chul orders him to lighten Jong-yi's debt. The next day at school, Yeon-jung bumps into her bullies, but she finally talks back to them. When the bullies try to hit her, she expertly defends herself, making Fan Su proud. At night, Fan Su is at the restaurant where Mi-soon serves him mackerel ramen. She remembers having the same dish with Yeon-jung's father, whom she regrets not killing. Mi-soon then serves other customers when a man touches her. Fan Su quickly defends her and crushes his arm. When the man's friend harms Mi-soon, he throws him off and beats the man until Mi-soon stops him. The woman berates him for his behavior, so Fan Su finally admits who he really is. Later, he proves his claims by telling her facts about their past. This convinces her that he's really Fan Su, so he finally asks why she didn't tell him about Yeon-jung. Pissed, Mi-soon calls him a gangster, insisting that Yeon-jung is her daughter, not his. After their confrontation, Mi-soon recalls how Fan Su distanced himself from her because she didn't want to live with a criminal. Instead, he revealed he'll be marrying his boss's daughter. The following day, Yeon-jung asks Fan Su why her mother told her to avoid him. Fan Su just tells her that he made mistakes. Suddenly, Min-woo approaches them and invites Yeon-jung to his birthday party. Seeing her blush, Fan Su figures that she likes Min-woo. That weekend, Yeon-jung attends the party, and Min-woo greets her. To her surprise, Chul-ho is there, who obeys Min-woo. Meanwhile, Jae-ik brings food for Yeon-jung's bullies in a karaoke room. He overhears them discussing Yeon-jung at the party, making him suspicious. At the same time, Fan Su meets with Mi-soon to apologize for what happened between them. Mi-soon is convinced that he's the same person who wanted to forget her, so she leaves. But Fan Su kisses her, making her slap him. After they leave, Jae-ik calls Fan Su to warn him that Yeon-jung may be in trouble, so he leaves. Later, Fan Su drives the car with Yeon-ji and Jae-hee, forcing them to give him directions to Min-woo's party. At the party, Min-woo coerces Yeon-jung to drink liquor while being recorded, but she refuses. Pissed, Min-woo reveals that he's the leader of the bullies and pours the liquor on her. Fan Su arrives and finds Yeon-jung being cornered by the bullies, so he puts a jacket over her. Min-woo, however, pulls her back and has his men surround him. To their surprise, Fan Su single-handedly defeats them. Chul-ho lands a punch, but Fan Su remains unfazed and fights back, then pushes him into the pool. With that, Yeon-jung kicks on Min-woo and punches him into the pool. The next day, Man-chul goes to the hospital to see Fan Su's body being guarded by Han's men. He later tells Fan Su that Han believes he embezzled money, and his wife is now siding with Yang. Hearing this, Fan Su orders him to give a letter to Han. At night, Fan Su goes to Mi-soon to ask how Yeon-jung is, but she insists he can't really do anything for Yeon-jung. After leaving, he meets Yoon-ji, who apologizes. She asks if he's dating Yeon-jung, but he insists that they're not. This makes her happy, so she asks him to go out with her. He refuses, so she just hands him a box of chocolates before leaving. Yeon-jung arrives, seeing that Yoon-ji asked him out. She tells him to go out with her instead, which pisses him off, so he leaves. The following day, Mi-soon drags Fan Su out of the school and tells him to leave them alone. Fan Su begs her for forgiveness, but she insists that she will never forgive him. Yeon-jung overhears this and demands an explanation, so Fan Su confesses that he loves her mother. Disgusted by this, Yeon-jung leaves. That night, Yang knocks out the guards watching over Fan Su's body and goes to kill him. However, Fan Su suddenly wakes up, scaring him and causing him to pass out. Dong-yoon, now in Fan Su's body, arrives at their apartment and cries out to his dad, making Jong-yi panic. Fan Su then arrives and sees Dong-yoon in his body, while Dong-yoon is surprised to see his body having lost weight. Later, Fan Su explains everything to Jong-yi, and Dong-yoon recounts some personal memories to prove his identity. Now that his body is active again, Fan Su asks for Dong-yoon's help. Meanwhile, Yang tells Soo-yeon that Fan Su escaped, making her worry that he'll reveal everything to her father. The following day, Dong-yoon and Fan Su go to Mi-soon to claim that they've returned to their bodies. However, Yang and his men suddenly arrive, having followed them. To their surprise, Dong-yoon and Fan Su's body cries for his life, making them think he went crazy. With no choice, Fan Su takes the others to the kitchen. One by one, he fights the men and dodges every attack. However, when Yang's bodyguard, Guak, steps in, Fan Su struggles with him. Eventually, Fan Su pins him to the table, but someone smashes a bottle over his head. Despite this, Fan Su chokes Guak. so Yang intervenes and beats him up. Before Yang could kill him, Mi-soon shows up with a gas tank and threatens to blow everyone up. Mi-soon declares that she's not afraid to die because she struggled most of her life. Talking to Fan-soo, she reveals that she's had a difficult time, but she only had Yeon-jung to keep her going as she reminded her of Fan-soo. Confused, Yang asks her to stop, allowing Fan-soo to break his wrist and punch him. However, Mi-soon stops him, saying he's no better than the thugs. With no choice, Yang and his men leave. As they leave, Fan-soo checks on Mi-soon. Instead, she addresses Dong-yoon, despite knowing that he's not the real Fan-soo. She confesses that she missed him every time she saw Yeon-jung, but she's glad that he's back. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon is called to her father's house, where she discovers that Fan-soo wrote Han a letter accusing her of conspiring with Yang. Thinking that Fan-soo is accusing her of orchestrating his accident, she insists that she only talked to Yang after the accident. However, this proves that she plotted with Yang against her family. Upon confirming this, Han orders his men to bring a beaten-up Cho. Soon, Dong-yoon nervously enters the house while Fan-soo tells him what to say from an earpiece. Han pronounces Fan-soo as heir to the Han-ho group despite Soo-yoon insisting that she's his daughter, so she should inherit it. Desperate, Soo-yeon accuses Han of being unfaithful and having a secret daughter, pointing out that he went to Mi-soon after recovering. Fan-soo tries to get Dong-yoon to defend him, but their device goes static. Han demands an explanation, so with no other choice, Dong-yoon confesses that he has a daughter, but insists that she wasn't born while he was married to Soo-yeon. Fan-soo hears this but allows Dong-yoon to continue. He explains that being with the family he loves is more important, so he'd give up his inheritance for them. Offended by this, Soo-yeon leaves. Being disappointed in his own daughter, Han understands the value of family and allows Dong-yoon to leave. When Dong-yoon returns to the others, Fan-soo hugs him and tells him that he's a better man than him. Seeing them, Soo-yeon angrily speeds up her car, so Fan-soo pushes Dong-yoon out of the way, so Soo-yeon only runs him over. Fan-soo is taken to the hospital, where Yeon-jung and Mi-soon visit him. He finally admits that he's Yeon-jung's father, and apologizes for not being with her throughout her life. He tells her he loves her before passing out. Suddenly, Dong-yoon also faints. In the operating room, Fan-soo sees the owner of Hope Diner, asking if he enjoyed the little gift she gave him. 6 months later, Dong-yoon, now back in his body, arrives at school, where his classmates cheer for him for driving the bullies out of school. He and Yeon-jung also become close, much to Yoon-ji's jealousy. Meanwhile, the news reports Yang's arrest for embezzlement while Mi-soon opens up a new restaurant. Fan-soo, Jong-gi, Dong-yoon, and Yeon-jung help at the restaurant and grow closer together. Man-chul also starts working, but now treats Mi-soon as his boss. Customers start flocking to the restaurant, and the strange family continues their days happily.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.